Yeah, on this one. And she's not going.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a message from Deacon Ken Carpinelli from St. John Evangelist.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Almighty God, we thank you for the opportunity for us to come together here, for us to be able to speak our mind, but also to open our hearts to each other and the needs that are here. Lord, we ask and pray for those who have been affected by the wildfires in Hawaii and Maui, that they will receive the help and the supports that they need, not just now for rebuilding, but also for their future because of all the emotional levels that are there. I ask, Lord, that you would have your guidance also on the members here of Town Council and all those in the municipality here of Gloucester Township. Grant them a heart of charity, wisdom, and justice. Lead them and lead us all tonight to follow your will and the best thing for all in your love. Amen.
This regular meeting of the Township Council is being held in accordance with the schedule of meetings of the Township Council established and adopted by the Township Council, which schedule designated the time, date, and place of this meeting. Adequate public notice of this meeting has been provided pursuant to the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act. We're using an electronic amplifying and recording device, and in order to obtain an audible and clear record, we request that all those wishing to speak be recognized, state your name, and address directly into the microphone. The recording device is to be solely utilized by the Township Clerk's office for the preparation of the minutes and shall be the official record of the Township Council meetings. Madam Clerk, may I have roll call?
Mr. Hutchison.
Present.
Ms. Grace. Mrs. Albrecht Troxel.
Here.
Mrs. Walters.
Here.
Mrs. Winters.
Here.
Mr. Mignon.
Here.
Mr. Mercado.
He's ill.
Mr. Carlemere.
Here.
Mr. Cardis.
Here.
Chief Harkins.
Here.
Mr. McGill.
Here.
Let the record state that Ms. Grace is also ill tonight. Okay, first we'll have our public portion. This public participation shall be for agenda items only. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turns, they may address council a second time, only if it adds to what they said earlier, not what they said earlier, not repeating earlier statements. This would be for a total of 15 minutes, 3 minutes per person. Are there any questions? Ms. Fenton.
Hello, good evening, Council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Milbridge Gardens apartment complex in Clementon, New Jersey. Apartment 341. It's located on Millbrook Court that runs parallel to Kelly Driver Road, identified as Kelly Driver Lane on the New Jersey Transit Bus schedule. Am I permitted to ask a question about the ordinance of adoptions for the second public reading of 02308?
Yeah, there'll be a public portion for that. That'll be following right after this.
Oh, so it does not apply?
No, but there will be a public hearing immediately after this initial public portion.
I did have a question about the R2308217. It says that there's needed repairs. Is that considered from the Historical Society?
That's for Gabriel Davies Tavern, correct?
That's how I read it.
I can't. So these are, yes, repairs to the Gabriel Davies Tavern. Right now, it is planned to remove the bathroom that was put onto the building some years ago. That is not relative to the age of the building. And to secure the wall where the bathroom is. In addition to that, recently it's come to light that they're having some concerns with some of the windows aging. And so that has to be addressed and has to be addressed by a historical architect.
What was damaged in the bathroom?
It's not so much damage to the bathroom as the bathroom really should never have been added to the building. So the recommendation from the historic committee, and I believe from the state of New Jersey, is to remove that, have a bathroom in the carriage, what was called 30 years ago, the carriage house, I don't know what they call it now. That's a separate building. And then to reinforce that wall, because there's concern once we bring the bathroom down, that wall could be compromised.
And that's going to cost, as I understand it by reading this, $100,000
It'll cost a lot more than that. So this is
to replace a bathroom?
This is yes, to that, to not only remove the bathroom, but also to secure that wall. I think the immediate concern is what came to light most recently, which is the damage to the windows.
Well, for over $100,000 to repair a bathroom, do we have the documentation for when it was permitted to be added on in the first place?
I don't have that. I would have to.
I mean, to prevent something like that from happening again, to add a toilet is something that in the Historical Society, they did not add an outhouse, which would be more appropriate if it's in a historic building. You're saying that the Historic Society is going to allow $50,000 plus matching funds, which makes it $100,000.
It's matching funds because the township has been successful in the last several years in obtaining money from the county. There is a requirement as you get additional monies, and they permit you to apply for up to $50,000. We've been successful in getting $50,000 each year. There's a requirement for an increased percentage of a cash contribution. That money would come from the recreation open space account.
So the Recreation Open Space account is the account that is matching the funds from the Historic Society Trust Fund, Historic Preservation Trust Fund?
That's correct.
So it's actually a double funding.
It's a grant. It is a grant from the county. There is a requirement for a match as you receive additional monies. You start with 50, and if you get another 50, there's a requirement for a low percentage. As you get more money, the percentage of the match increases.
Ms. Smithman, your time is up. If there's no one else that would like to speak, you can
But are
continue.
they going to provide anything on how that got built in the first place to have that amount of damage? If it was permitted to be built,
It's not damaged. It's recommended that the bathroom be removed, that it should not have been put there to begin with from a historical perspective. The concern is once the bathroom is removed.
I believe your time is up.
Yeah.
If there's somebody, play by the rules.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
thank you, council.
You're welcome. Ms. Smithman, you can take another 3 minutes if you'd like. There's no one else that would like to speak.
Coming back to the microphone just to address your statement, I can only make a comment if I have anything further to say. Shamefully, I'm unprepared. The agenda items were not on the table when I arrived prior to the 6:30 work session meeting. They did not have the agenda listed there and on the board. So I apologize. I have nothing further to add, so I don't think I'm permitted to speak any further. Thank you, council.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, we'll close the first public portion. Next, we're going to have a second reading of the ordinances. There will be a public hearing for both of them. First one is 0-23-07, ordinance of the Township of Gloucester amending Chapter 67A of the Gloucester Township Property Maintenance Code, establishing requirements for inspection of lead-based paint in certain residential dwellings. David, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, this ordinance results from New Jersey state legislation. Requires municipalities to inspect single-family, two-family, and multi-dwelling families, buildings that were built prior to 1979. There's a timeframe, probably as soon as possible should begin through the code enforcement office to administer that. We're offered any residential rental unit has to be inspected every 3 years or turnover of tenants. It's very involved legislation that municipalities are being asked to enforce and goes through the construction office official to administer.
Any questions? Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Hughes Landing. I just want to make sure I understand this. This is only for rental properties, am I correct?
Single family, two family, and multi-family dwellings. They're inspected, and it's only buildings that were prior to 1979. You might have a lot of the multi-family apartment complexes might be under DCA regulations, anything 3 or more units. And so they might have already had their bed-based paid inspections, and they're just required to provide certifications for that. So anything within the last 10 years that's been under DCA, New Jersey DCA control, they might have been inspected. Other units as single family might not have been inspected. It was built prior to 1979.
But we're talking rental units, correct?
I think what this point is getting at is the first sentence says, municipalities are now required to inspect every single family, two family, and multiple dwelling rentals. So the question, does rentals apply to single, two family, as well as the multiple?
Correct.
It's just a rental.
Rentals, if you have a single family home that's being rented, then you have to do those inspections.
Right, but the ordinance relates to rental properties only. Right. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 0-23-07?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hutchison,
Yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel,
Yes.
Mrs. Walters.
Yes.
Mrs. Winters.
Yes.
Mr. Mignani.
Yes. Excuse me. Okay, next we have ordinance 0-23-08. It's an ordinance amending chapter 53A of the code book entitled, quote, flood damage prevention, end quote, to adopt flood hazard maps, to designate a floodplain administrator, and providing for severability and an effective date by the Township Council of the Township of Gloucester, County of Camden, State of New Jersey. Anything else you'd like to add to that?
This legislation comes from the Federal Emergency Management, directed again to municipalities through the construction code official. They've identified flood hazard zones in various municipalities, and it's doing legislation that's enforced through the construction office to identify any development that's coming in that in a flood hazard zone to enforce and regulate the legislation from federal EMA.
Do we have any, next one, other questions? Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Hughes Landing. I called today to try to get clarification on this ordinance regarding whether or not the designated floodplain administrator is a paid position. And the responses I got were, I don't know. Do you know if anybody received any clarity on this at some point during the day as to whether or not this position is a paid position?
I would think it comes down to the construction code. So the construction code official.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mr. Crowley.
The construction code official, probably going to be doing the administration.
Well, under 103, it does specify.
Yes, the construction code official is designated as the floodplain administrator.
So the question at this point is, does he get a boost in salary as a result of being designated?
Correct.
And that has not been put into the salary ordinance. So in my position would be no.
So that's for sure no, it's an unpaid position.
Well, I think it could be revisited next year when we do the salary ordinance again, so we can make the case that the responsibilities from this ordinance justify an increase within the salary range. It's not before us right now. So
Okay,
there's been no conversation about that.
so essentially tonight you're approving an ordinance that you don't know whether or not at some point in the future it's going to cost the taxpayers money as far as an additional salary regarding administering this ordinance.
Well, those are your words. My words are this, is, right now, we're gonna pass an ordinance that puts responsibilities on an individual who's currently working for the town. He has not asked, that person has not asked for a salary increase as a result of these additional responsibilities. If he does, or that individual does make a request, we'll consider it. Those are my words.
Okay, the other questions I had regarding this was it says that the flood plan administrator will be the construction official. And then the duties, it says that this person who's designated is supposed to coordinate with the construction official, who is the person administering the program, correct? Am I reading that correctly?
You're reading, 103.1.
103.4 duties. Establish in coordination with the construction office, written procedures for administering
1, 2, 3, 4, which one?
6, 7, and 8.
Okay, so, okay. You start which one, 103.16 or 103.46?
Yes,
Establish in coordination with the construction official written procedures for administering and documenting determinations of substantial improvement and substantial damage made pursuant to section 103.14 of these regulations. So you don't like the wording of 103.46.
those are your words. I didn't say that. I'm saying, am I reading this correctly, that it's saying that the person who is the administrator of this program is supposed to coordinate with the construction official who is the administrator of the program? It's the same person, correct?
What it says.
Okay, so 3 of the duties are going to be done by the same person who's the construction official, who I believe is Jim Gallagher, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Quinn. Anyone else? Ms. Smithman?
Hi, good evening, Council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I reside in the SDK Millbridge Gardens Apartment Complex, Clementon, New Jersey. Apartment 341, it's located on Millbrook Court. It runs parallel, that is adjacent to Kelly Driver Road. The nearest intersecting road is Mill Gate. For the ordinance adoption for the 02308, for flood damage prevention, clerical error possibly, 30123. Be met. I wasn't sure if there was supposed to be a space in between.
I'm sorry, you said 301, I'm sorry.
301.2,
Okay.
section 3. I believe it was the last word in there. It was like assuming that all the conditions be met, but it seemed like it should have had a space. Just checking.
You're saying it should say,
I'm not saying what it should say, I was just asking, is that a clerical error?
what do you see as a grammatical error? I'm sorry.
So it is just a typographical error?
No, I'm asking you, what do you perceive, what is a typical type? Typo.
The word be met, I believe it's the last word in 301.2, section 3.
Anybody know the definition of being met?
Is it, if anybody identifies it, could they please read it back to me? I don't have access to the internet, so I could not read the ordinance in advance.
Now, as you were saying, it should be a space between,
I don't know what it should be. I was just asking, is that correct? Could you read it out loud, please?
yeah, it says the design criteria for utilities and facilities set forth in these regulations and appropriate codes shall be met. But the error is that the E after the B is not separated from the M before met. So there should be a space there. You're correct.
Oh, so they should be met.
Yep.
It's not one word.
B space met.
Reading in that, the flood damage prevention, it seemed to go over a lot of the local codes as well as state regulations that need to be followed. But the most closest thing where I saw flood damage in Gloucester Township was on Shoes Landing Road, just down the street here from 1261 Shoes Landing Road from this building. They were going to build some type of townhouses. They said it used to be an old quarry. It looked like it would be within a 500-year type of evaluation to have possible mudslide if they were to build something there. Did Gloucester Township, upon trying to adopt this flood damage prevention plan, I believe you have to, correct, because it's ordinance from the state, was that reviewed? Because there was like a work type section here where they wanted to put buildings there. It was in like,
So the requirements set forth here are probably a lot more detailed and extent than they've been in past years. That's why this is new act coming out of the federal emergency management, passing it through the states to the local government, mandating the adoption and following these guidelines. So it's a new living document that the code official, who's going to be the administrator, has to get into and start identifying and signing out. So it's new regulations that, from what I understand, in the past 3 or 4 months, they've all been taking courses through the state, or besides the event-based, also this flood. To be able to be up to speed on the regulations that are coming down that have to be enforced, that's being pushed to the municipalities.
but has Gloucester Township recognized, well, do you know what section I'm referring to, Mr. Collier?
Just what you read.
No, on Shoes Landing Road, just as you,
Oh, no, no.
if you left this municipal building and made a left onto Shoes Landing Road, just when it dips downhill, you can see the evidence. It looks like there was previously like a mudslide of some kind. Well, they had proposed I don't know if it was zoning or planning. Somebody had made an application to build townhomes there. But within the 500-year zone requirement, to take an average of possible flood damage prone areas, I don't know does this ordinance 02308, is it grandfathered over? Like, does it begin when this ordinance is passed, or does the previously approved applications, will it affect them?
My sense is, just from having conversations over the last couple of months and meetings with the code official up there, they've all been taking the necessary courses to identify what their new responsibilities or extended responsibilities are. And I'm pretty confident in the officials up there as far as their ability to understand where the flood zones are, and applicants come in, that has to be more targeted to meet these regulations.
So are they grandfathered in? It made mention of historical type areas that would have exception, but is it grandfathered in for things already approved from prior to this ordinance 023?
Things have already been approved, developments have already started. It's the criteria that are followed. I can't tell you how that's going to be looked at as they continue their development inspections.
But this is a living document that's required by the state, so it would have to apply to everything being built.
It's pretty extensive. It's a pretty big ordinance.
So when the ground breaks, 180 days from that, but it didn't really mention whether the application, whether they were approved to begin building. If they didn't begin building, like if they didn't put in the floor or a wall to begin the process of the building, will they be able to grandfather it in according to this ordinance to have an exception to this ordinance?
I can't answer.
You can or you won't.
I can't make a statement regarding your question without knowing exactly what you're doing.
What I'm asking,
And that question should be put to.
if they did not break ground,
That question should be put to the code official. If you have a concern, that question should be put to the code official or council to the code official as to identifying that particular location.
But
How
you're-
is that affected by the flood?
but this board is this Gloucester Township Council meeting is where you're approving this ordinance. So you would be approving the ordinance which affects the zoning boards and the construction section. So you're asking a document to be approved. I'm asking you, will it affect buildings that have been made their application to be built?
Depends on this. I can't answer that.
Well, I've read it, that's why I'm asking you that.
I can't answer that question. There's too many variables. Question can be put to the code official as to the status of that application, where it is. I'm not familiar with that development personally to tell you whether or not it's not in the stage of shoveling the ground or it is in the stage of shoveling the ground. What have they started? How is that affected by any regulation that might be due? They might not have gotten to that point, so then they would be subject to the regulations if the regulations are different. It's more of an enforcement. It's not necessarily changing regulations. It's more of an enforcement legislation procedure that's being directed here. It's not changing what rules and regulations have been directed.
It's changing whether or not things are permitted to be built though. And there is evidence of previous flood damage in an area that's proposed to be built in Gloucester Township. So my question was, because I did the best I could to read that document, it didn't mention whether or not it grandfathered applications. It did mention that when a building is considered to start building, to begin to officially be a building is when ground is broken or a wall is constructed of a permanent nature, like it has to do with that building itself. But that's not the only approval for different things to be built in Gloucester Township. That was just my example. But you're saying that you don't know whether or not it gets grandfathered in.
Well, I'm not in a position to answer what they're.
So you don't know what
That question can be put to the official up there that might be in a better position to know. the
official
status.
up, I don't mean to official up where,
To the code official.
but this ordinance hasn't been approved yet. The code official has nothing to go on. This is the reading for ordinance 02308, an ordinance amending chapter 53A of the code book entitled Flood Damage Prevention. So here is where you're approving or denying this application for this ordinance. And now my question is, before it's approved or denied, do you know whether or not it will affect other things that have already been approved to begin building? I believe that I'm asking the correct person. I'm asking the highest authority here, Vice President, Mr. Mignon, Councilman Mignon. Do you know whether or not it will affect buildings already being built?
I don't know that also. I'm gonna piggyback with what Mr. Collier said, but I know this ordinance is titled Flood Damage Prevention to adopt the flood hazard maps, the areas that could potentially be hazard to flood. These discussion will be contact or talk to the code official going forward, but I cannot answer that question. To what you're looking for, give you the answer that you're looking for.
Well, the code official doesn't have an ordinance to reference because it's not been approved or denied yet. That's why I'm asking the council of Gloucester Township, who is approving or denying this ordinance, do you know whether or not it will apply to applications that have already been made but have not broke ground, have not began building?
Don't know that answer.
Oh, you don't, but you're going to approve or deny it even though you don't know?
That is correct.
There's nothing I can do about that. Good day, council. Thank you.
Ms. Hendry?
Hello, good evening, Dina Hendry, Summerville. A quick question about this. Just so I'm clear, it says that the construction code official is designated in, as the floodplain administrator, correct? So where are the checks and balances? Because he's like me, myself, and I. Like, he's the one to review it. He's the one to submit it. He's the one to approve it, or she. I mean, we don't, So where are the checks and balances?
I think if you look at 103.1,
Uh-huh,
it built in there that the construction code official is designated floodplain administrator.
correct.
Look on the second sentence of 103.1, it indicates that he has the ability to delegate performance of certain duties to other employees or to consultants. So I think the spirit of 103.46 is that if there is such a delegation of those duties, that individual has to go back to the construction code official and, work together on that. That's the way I'm interpreting it.
But he is the construction code official. So therefore, is he gonna be like, self, can I do this? And he'd be like, absolutely, great idea.
Well, when Denise brought that up, I looked at it, and that's why I was asking. I said, trying to understand.
I was back there, I'm like, wait a second, this is not,
The wording, and then I started to look at the wording, and first of all, it brought up another question. Is this like a boilerplate document, Dave, that was basically being given?
Correct.
Okay, so I looked at it, and I looked at it in the spirit of where Denise was coming from. And do I like the wording? Not particularly, but I think I understand the spirit of the wording. I think that the construction code official in his capacity as the floodplain administrator could do these things himself or herself.
Mhm.
But if they're going to delegate, then they must work in unison together to come up with.
But the person that they're working together is with themselves.
No. If they delegate it to somebody else, a consultant, let's say.
Okay, so which brings me to this question though, approved consultant. Wouldn't that then be more money than just like throwing, like, let's say a bonus in a sense? Like, that's like probably considerably more money. And who would be an approved consultant for this?
I mean, this is something we're being given from above. I guess it's federal, right?
Yeah.
And I imagine a lot of thought went into it at that level. Okay, so we're given it. If our construction code official is not capable of doing what's required, we're going to have to go out and ask for a consultant. But that's not before us right now.
So good point. So if it happens that they need to go to a consultant because the workload is too much, because not only do they have to review it, approve it, and then, make it go, would you as council then approve the consultant, or you're just gonna say, you know what, we trust your judgment, go ahead?
No, I would imagine that's.
But the thing is, it doesn't state that. So one would imagine, right? One would imagine, but the thing is, I think we're getting hung up on the wording is that it doesn't state that if it needs to go for a consultant, it needs to be approved by council prior to and voted on.
I think that there's probably, contracting law.
Yeah, if the construction code official, any hiring or bringing someone else on, getting a consultant in, has to come through the business administrator and governing body. But I think what everyone is really talking about, it indicates the floodplain administrator should have the authority to render interpretations of these regulations consistent with the intent and purpose of these regulations, and to establish policies and procedures in order to clarify the application of its provisions. Such interpretations, policies, and procedures shall be consistent with the intent and purpose of these regulations and its flood provisions of the building code, and shall not have the effect of waiving specific requirements without granting variances to the provisions of section 107. So it gives some flexibility, but it's pretty mandates what the floodplain administrator's authority is, to make sure that the provisions are here, are interpreted and provided, proceeded with. If the interpretation is not correct, then there's a challenge. But that's what happens when the state, faulting the state, but when they make a regulation and they send it down and put it on the municipalities to administer, governing bodies have that difficulty in making sure that the state regulations are being followed. And the state's not hardline, at least in my years of experience. If there's something that's up for interpretation, then they give you a modification plan for it. So, and as we've been working with the construction code official over the last several months, a couple of the meetings that I was in, they're all taking courses and they all having an understanding of what's going on with this flood program, as well as the fire the inspections. And they have a good handle on what has to be done.
So then for our township, we have one construction code official, or are there many?
Well, one construction code official that then administers for the other inspectors and what have you that are in their office of the department.
So as we're reading this, the construction code official, he or she would also be the floodplain administrator, and then he would establish, coordinate, and review. So the question is, where are the checks and balances? That one, I mean, like for instance, you know, if those who are in a leadership position and you have subordinates underneath you and you say, okay, I need you to establish, you know, a policy, and they give you the policy as leaders, you review the policy, you establish that's a good policy or a bad policy, and then, you know, you set forth. If it's only one person doing this, how do you and the residents and taxpayers know that this person is acting in good faith? I'm just asking about the checks and balances.
I think it follows up with the director of the department. Then the director of the department that issues has a discussion at the board standards with the governing body, and issues get resolved.
And I think it's also, it comes within the executive branch of the local government. So if that construction official is going to set in place a policy, I imagine that, you know, it's going to stay within the executive branch of this government, and the mayor ultimately will weigh in on it. If it's something that invokes some type of legislative response needed.
I think if there was some sort of like addendum in a sense, or some wording where it says, if the person is the same person, right? If the construction code official is the floodplain administrator, because we all know that we all wear many hats in our roles, that, you know, there are some sort of that person has to go to the executive branch to say that. If you just take verbatim what this piece of paper says, there is no checks and balances. So that's just where I have the question of.
This may be one of those types of situations where it gets put into play and it gets evaluated as time goes on. And something like you're suggesting, hey, there's no checks and balances, and trust me, I get that. And I don't want somebody running the road in the town and making other, you know, residents.
It is not good to color outside the lines. No.
So, I mean, I get that, but I think it's gonna be one of these things where it's evaluated over time.
Okey-doke, thanks.
And I think their initial response was right on. Construction code official was responsive to the director is responsive to the mayor. I said if things have to be changed, it comes to the legislature.
Who do the construction officers report to now?
Yep, the employees will report to the construction code official, who reports to the director.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve ordinance 0-23-08?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hutchinson?
Kudos to the dialogue on this ordinance, yes.
Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Minio?
I concur with Dan. There's a lot to this, and yes, kudos. Yes. Okay, now we'll close our second reading, public hearing for the two ordinances. Next, we have our consent agenda. Any council member would like to see anything removed from the consent agenda, please speak up. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it is?
Make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Easy roll call.
Mr. Hutchinson?
Yes.
Ms. Grace? I'm so sorry. Mrs. Albright Troxel?
Yes.
Mrs. Walters?
Yes.
Mrs. Winters?
Yes.
Mr. Mignon?
Yes. Okay, next we'll go to our GTE govs. Okay. So first we have one from Kirk Cooper from 4 Hartford Road, Clementon, New Jersey. Question for council. Hey, when does the pickleball courts open up at the GT Park? Went twice this weekend and was locked and closed. Thanks. Kirk, there will be a soft opening that's happening now. Anybody can use those pickleball courts now. And there will be a plan for ribbon cutting for that very shortly. So pickleball courts are open. Anyone can use them. Next, we have an email from Diane Hiller from 58 Lincoln Drive, Laurel Springs, New Jersey. What is the plan for repaving the roads in Glen Oaks? I've seen one side of the street being repaved and not the other. First half of Lincoln Drive looks great. This coincides with our next question, which is from Richard Tyler from 31 Madison Drive, Laurel Springs. Question for council. Why was only half of our streets paved? This is hideous and our township should be embarrassed that they allowed this to happen to their residents considering the amount of taxes we pay. When will the other half of our streets be paved in Glen Oaks? The answer is the mayor and administration is looking into the situation. It is anticipated the roads paved to the center line will be paved curb to curb very soon. Next, we have questions from Denise Coyne, 1060 Chews Landing Road, Gloucester Township, New Jersey. First question is, and I'll read the answers to each question. Please provide the names, positions, and salaries of the individuals who've been assigned the responsibility of managing the day-to-day operations of what used to be the Municipal Utility Authority since the transition. Rich Calabrese, Director of Sewer Utility Department, $15,000 annually. Tim McGarvey, Sewer Inspection Supervisor, $75,208.64 annually. Keith Mellon, C4 License Operator, WRM Contractual. Do not have a salary for him. And John Meyer, I believe it is, MEIER, C4 License Operator, WRM Contractual. Also, there's no salary there. Number 2, 3 months ago, you were unable to provide the preliminary estimate of the cost savings expected from assuming control of the MUA. Do you now have an estimate of the cost savings? If yes, please provide the estimate. Answer, the township provided all preliminary cost savings estimates and procedures to the State of New Jersey Local Finance Board for approval of the dissolution of the G2 MUA. The township has not prepared any additional cost savings estimates since the approval of the dissolution by the LFB. The township anticipates additional savings on a day-to-day basis through operating the former authority as an approved utility. Number 3, what plans do you have to involve residents in the discussions of the master plan re-examination prior to the decisions being made other than the public hearing required by law? In short, answer, the required planning board public hearing to hear and adopt the re-examination report. At this time, we are not aware of public hearings for said report. As the township makes a decision to move forward with the review of its master plan, this can be a discussion to have with professionals/consultants. It is, however, at the discretion of the municipality to conduct additional public hearings, depending on the goals/objectives of the municipality for this re-examination. Number 4, what law or laws govern the re-examination of the master plan? Section 40:55D-89 of the Municipal Land Use Law governs the re-examination of the master plan. Number 5, which housing developments have been awarded tax abatements or pilots for residential housing units, and who are the redevelopers? According to tax assessor Jim Grandremo, housing developments are not eligible for tax abatements or pilots. Number 6, have redevelopers applied for tax abatements or pilots which have not yet been awarded? If so, which redevelopers? Answer, there are no applications for tax abatements or pilots filed by any redevelopers according to the GT tax assessor. That's it. Yep. One more. Can you let people, I'm sorry, this one is from Keith Gibbons, Blackwood Estates, Blackwood, New Jersey. Question, can you let people know why there were several Public Works trucks along with a crew of Public Works employees and supervisors working at Highland High School on Friday, July 28, 2023? And what was the backhoe digging up in the area that now has signs of a trench extending from the building onto the marquee sign? Tom, would you like to add
Yes,
to that?
so that was, my understanding of that is that the Black Horse Pike Regional School Board approached the township so that we could utilize our workforce and our equipment to trench an electric line that would run from the building to they have a new marquee that they're installing. So it was a request again. We did it under a shared service.
And then there's one more. Additionally, it would be great if Blue Wire Media could add the ability to attach a file to an eGov question/submission so a visual can easily be given should a resident wants to show council what they were asking about. This is an extremely easy ask for anyone that has even a basic knowledge of using a WordPress site. I believe residents would feel much better about information, reduce costs, and benefit our environment. Information goes two ways, and sometimes a drive out to see what someone is trying to alert the government about is required. Adding a way for people to help government reduce costs and benefit our environment by using modern day means, such as the ability to attach a file to avoid a trip to the site, would help actually satisfy the stated goal of benefits of the citizens access page. I don't believe there's any move forward to add pictures to the emails, but I will speak to the council president about this. Next, we have our public portion. This is a public participation, which will be any item the public chooses to address to the Township Council. Anyone addressing council may speak one time. Once all those wishing to address council have had their turns, they may address council a second time, only if it adds to what was said earlier, not repeating earlier statements. There'll be 5 minutes per speaker for a total of 30 minutes. Are there any questions? Ms. Hendry?
Dina Hendry Summerdale, I submitted an eGov question, or actually really wasn't a question, it was a kind comment on Friday. Did you not receive it?
I did not, was not handed that.
Ugh. All right, well, I'll read it, but if I start to cry, it's because it's super kind. I promise you. It says, good evening, I'm the type of person who values transparency, isn't hesitant to seek clarity, offer constructive suggestions, or possibly criticize the practices of this council for the township and the residents of that the council should impartially represent. Equally, I am quick to acknowledge and commend the exceptional efforts. The purpose of this eGov submission is to formally express my deep appreciation and gratitude for the outstanding dedication and hard work exhibited by the instructors of the Gloucester Township Police in the roles of the Junior Police Academy camp. Our oldest son, Aiden, had the privilege of participating in this transformative experience over the span of 2 weeks. As a parent, my heart swelled with pride as I observed Aiden's growth and learning a journey unfold each day. Through this program, he internalized the concept of earning and maintaining leadership, an invaluable lesson for an 11-year-old. While we are proud of all three of our boys and their accomplishments, we do recognize areas that need improvement. Over the course of Aiden's commitment to this camp, a remarkable transformation took place, turning him into a more focused and responsible individual that only needs to be reminded once to empty the dishwasher, not more than the 10 times usually it takes. Granted, this could be the threat of him doing PT at home as they do at Police Academy. It was generally inspiring to witness the instructors' unwavering commitment to nurturing the budding minds that will shape the future of this township. Their awareness at establishing personal and educational connections with the junior cadets was nothing short of remarkable. The interactive and enlightening lessons they delivered not only enhanced their understanding of law enforcement, but also injected a sense of enjoyment and positivity into the learning experience. The instructors' dedication to tailoring their teaching methods to cater to individual needs, ensuring that each cadet felt valued, heard, and motivated to excel. The instructors' impact extended beyond the classroom as they served as tremendous role models, mentors, and instilling the values of integrity, teamwork, and community service. They have undoubtedly contributed into the all-inclusive growth of these young participants. The ripple effect of their teachings will not only possibly shape aspiring law enforcement officers, but also foster responsible, compassionate citizens within our township. My husband and I want to extend a heartfelt recognition to the dedicated group of instructors who invested countless hours, unwavering dedication, and made personal sacrifices to ensure the Junior Police Academy camp was a success. Their passion for teaching and genuine concern of the well-being and the growth of their students did not go unnoticed. Their efforts have undeniably left a mark on Aiden and his fellow cadets, contributing immensely in their future endeavors. We are profoundly grateful of this contribution in the future. We believe that the skills and values instilled in their guidance will resonate through their lives as these young cadets shaping their paths in the most positive ways. Chief Harkins, we extend our sincere appreciation for you having these exceptional police officers on your team. Each one of you serve as a continuous foundation of inspiration, and your invaluable contributions have undoubtedly enriched the lives of this community. We eagerly anticipate the time when our 10-year-old twins will have the opportunity to partake in this ongoing success of the Junior Police Academy, all under the esteemed leadership of our remarkable police department. Thank you again.
Well written, Ms. Hendrick. Thank
I
you.
know, and you didn't read it.
Sorry, I would have read it, but I didn't have it. But very nice job. Great job, Chief, and the team. Okay, anyone else? Mr. Burns?
Good evening, Council. Brian Burns, Saltwood Drive and Ariel. A couple weeks ago, I mentioned a program called Hooked on Fishing, Not on Drugs. I had to do a little digging, but apparently before COVID, there was a fella, Robert Johnson. I don't know if anybody knows him, who was the leader for Gloucester Township. So I reached out to him. He's planning to continue the program starting in January. And I do have some brochures here that I can pass out to you. It's a fabulous program. It teaches citizenship. It teaches stewardship and natural resources. It's just, as a kid, I wasn't into sports too much, but I was into anything to do with the outdoors. And I think there's a lot of kids in our community that I would welcome the opportunity to put the phones down, put the computers down, and enjoy our natural resources. So I like to hand these out.
Are you gonna work with them on that, Brian?
Yes, I plan to work on passing this around.
Thank you for that, Mr. Burns.
The other thing I wanted to ask about, and I'm sure I know what the answer is going to be, it's under litigation. I believe council passed a resolution to hire an attorney to litigate the warehouse behind Target. Is that correct? So that's under litigation. And I know since it's under litigation, you can't talk about it. And I just want to remind council about the resolution that was adopted regarding the warehouse guidelines. And if you read through those guidelines, that location certainly doesn't fit those guidelines whatsoever. And I hope that the resolution of this thing is what the residents are hoping for. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Sir?
Hi, my name is Christopher Mathis. I'm a resident of the estate of Lakeside. Actually, a question about the warehouse that he just commented on. And so I have a young family, newborn on the way and a 1-year-old. And so I'm just curious on if it's passed, I guess, through the courts, like the warehouse, will there still be like a public hearing session? Like what's the next steps after that?
So really can't say what parameters the court will put on that, in some discussions, I'm sure. But, don't know where stage that litigation is in. I would imagine if they're successful and permitted, whatever stage they were at the planning board or they were planning board, it might continue back for review. Planning board input on some of the restrictions.
Okay.
I think they would be.
Oh, and this is also under my understanding, just that they started with planning board, but they should have started with the redevelopment entity. Is that correct?
They came before the redevelopment.
Okay.
if memory serving, the redevelopment on that project, and the agreement was never signed.
Okay.
There were two of them, one was signed, one was not signed.
So since it's not signed, does it mean it still sits with the redevelopment entity?
They might have to come back to if that's the one that was not signed and they're successful going through, it would have to come to a redevelopment entity.
Okay.
If it was already signed, it would go forward.
All right, thank you.
Christopher, can I ask you a question? Your last name and your full address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Last name is Mathis.
Mathis?
Yes, and my address is 39 Cayuga Way, Zieglerville, New Jersey.
39 Cayuga?
Cayuga, Cayuga.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Smithman?
Good evening, council. My name is Shaughnessy Smithman. I live in the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex on Millbrook Court. It's apartment 341. There has been several different complications on how to write that address. First, let me make sure that I do mention that the ordinance of 02308 for flood damage prevention was extremely well written. Whoever did it, it was readily, I could read it with ease. I was able to read it so without stressing my mind that I could catch a very small clerical error, which just reminds everyone that we're human. But it was so well written that I could read it in approximately an hour while standing up. That's a well-written document. So my apologies if it was taken as an insult, not at all. Somebody earlier had mentioned to thank the local police. I myself should mention, while asking the chief of police, Chief Harkins, how someone could identify whether or not somebody was making police reports about them. While trying to obtain information from the local Gloucester Township Police, I was told that the paperwork that was written incorrectly, that it didn't matter because they had their own file on me. So I was trying to ask Chief Harkins, how would a layman citizen inquire whether or not there was some type of report written on them? And he said, he asked me had I tried putting myself on the internet, looking myself up on the internet. And I paused and I said, are you saying I should go Google myself? And he just smiled. He said, yeah. I never felt safer. Whoever could throw what could be construed as an insult in such a innocent way, I'm sure that the bad guys have come into him what has come into him. So thank you, Chief Harkins. I should remind the council that I've been in Gloucester Township residing since February 25th, 2015. I'm single. A heterosexual, which means I'm straight. I bring that up only because other descriptive terms seem to be thrown around, and since I have no bias on other people's opinions or their lifestyles, I should acknowledge that I'm straight. I'm single. I've never been married. Both my fathers have now deceased. My dad, God rest his soul, and my stepfather, God rest his soul. My mother resides in Hawaii. I'm still having trouble with properly identifying my address. And now, while trying to investigate, asking the inquiries of the company that assists me with psychiatric needs in a program called Home to Recovery. The name of the company is South Jersey Behavioral Health Resources. They have now separated once again the administrative portion. They moved apparently the therapeutic services administrative part out of the building. I do not know where. They only say it's located in the city of Camden. My son resides in the city of Camden in 125 North 3rd Street. The last four of his phone number is 6601. Their records indicate something different, as well as my social security number is incorrect. While asking them for a copy of my records from at least February 25th, 2015, they told me no. that they don't have to provide it, that they're only moving forward. I have this document which they provide me with, which shows a deposit of $91,652 on September 4th, 2019, that they say went into an account without my name on it, only my social security number. They said it was a computer glitch that made that mistake. May I show this to you?
You say they, who's they? You could bring up.
The company South Jersey Behavioral Health Resources. And now they're indicating that they don't have to provide me with information on how this clerical error occurred or their documentation on it. Nor do they have to correct my son's information, Tyler Tyndall.
Yeah, that's what I'm at.
Yeah,
They are conducting business in Gloucester Township.
I don't want to see your purse from, for a HIPAA standpoint.
Right.
I don't want to, there's no.
Their HIPAA records are inaccurate. And they refuse to correct them. The lawyer, Brian Smith Esquire, who they brought me to, they say that the people that are part of their program are forced to apply for anything that is applicable to them. So you are forced to apply for Social Security disability insurance or Social Security income from the Social Security Administration if it's owed to, if it's something that you can apply for. The Community Health Law Project, where they brought me to, also has clerical errors such as this. I think it's a big deal. This company does go through the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex in Clementon, New Jersey, practices business in your township. I'm a citizen of this township. I reside in what is considered Clementon, New Jersey, but I'm told I'm to utilize the Gloucester Township municipality.
Smithman, your time is up, but my recommendation to you would be to go to your family physician and see if he or she can help you with this matter.
My family physician?
Yeah.
My primary healthcare physician?
Yep, and tell them what your concerns are and see if they can steer you in the right direction. We will not be able to help you
with whether or not a company practicing business in your township has to provide me with the medical records from February 25th, 2015, which is the day I moved in to the SDK Millbridge Gardens apartment complex as an occupant, not as a leaseholder, but as an occupant.
What makes you think that city council can help you with obtaining your medical records?
This is a company practicing business in your township that is caring for individuals in your township.
We've never been given that authority to be able to do something like you're asking. We can't do.
with.
Go to your department, the manager of your apartment. Go to the manager of your apartment and explain the situation. And maybe they can help you because they're having access apparently, helping you with your rent. And they should know
No, they
something.
won't provide me
If
with
not,
the,
the Better Business Bureau may help you. They'll let you know if this company is fraud. And you can look them up and I don't even know if we have yellow pages anymore.
they won't provide me with the records from when they began caring for me, like assisting me.
I'd start with your manager.
February
and then your
25th,
doctor.
2015, they said that they will not provide me with my medical file.
Then go to your doctor, like you said.
But that's a primary care physician that's separate from psychiatric.
But they can help you.
And
They'll have the
therapeutic.
resources to help you. Ms. Smithman, your time is up and I apologize for that. Ms. Coyne?
Denise Coyne, Shoes Landing. I'd like some clarification regarding the redevelopment meeting. The letters of support that are given to cannabis applicants, I believe that those, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that those letters of support basically say that the applicant's plan meets the ordinances and the regulations of the township. Do they not?
I don't know if it's that or necessarily the surrounding person is okay with it being there.
Basically, that originated from the state of New Jersey required an applicant seeking a license, conditional license at that stage from the state of New Jersey. They wanted to make sure that the ordinance, the local municipality which they wanted to open up in, approved cannabis. And so when we set our own criteria, because wasn't any given by the state as to what we would want from an applicant. So if they were desirous of opening up a business, our letter of support went to that person so that they could submit it to the state and say Gloucester Township would permit a cannabis retail or agricultural, whatever they were doing in their town.
Not at the location there.
Yeah, I believe I read that it specified that they were eligible to build on the site that they were requesting, that fell within the township's ordinances specifically regarding marijuana facilities within that township.
Well, in working with the administration and the clerk, we required them to seek their zoning letter, that they had a permitted or conditional use, whatever it was, and what the limitations and restrictions were. And that's things that they submitted that this particular applicant submitted also.
But what I'm asking is, aren't the letters of support that are given to applicants, aren't they given stating that that particular applicant's application meets the township's ordinances for medical or retail marijuana facilities? So you're essentially saying, yes, this applicant's okay to build in our township according to our ordinances, is what I understand from what I read a letter of support is saying.
Not necessarily, that's not the intent of the letter of support.
Is there some place where I can find what?
They're required to give us a location, the criteria. They had financial ability, that they were serious, not speculators, because the township didn't want someone that was speculating to get approvals and then market it. We wanted someone that was serious to come into town, whatever location. They disclosed where they were going, so we wanted to make sure you either had a lease agreement, take out the particular finance information we told them, or they owned the property. So we knew that they were serious about going forward, not just trying to speculate to get a license and then try to market it and sell it. And every applicant that came in met that criteria. One applicant that I recall, council denied that because they were too close to residential. They didn't meet that requirement.
So whose responsibility is it when an applicant comes in and wants a letter of support for a particular property? Whose responsibility is it to look at something that says we already have an application in process for the property next door, or the property across the street, or the property behind them? Who does that?
Well, that's not the purpose of the letter of support. That's going to come into play because if there's two applicants that want to go in, two applicants that want to go into the same location, they have to deal with the fact that there's restrictions and criteria. You can't be so many feet, 2,000 feet from your door to that.
Yeah, so is it the applicant's responsibility to find out?
What happens is when they make their application, then that's going to be something that probably gets their application denied.
But is it their responsibility to find that out? Okay.
When they contact myself or the clerk, we disclose that information. They can still make their request. We disclose it, but these are what we see are restrictions. But you can still make your request and go forward. That's stumbling blocks you're going to hit when you have to get your site plan approved.
All right, and the second question I had was the applicant that spoke about the municipal land use law, and they were asking for the equivalent of a variance under the municipal land use law for a property that is in a redevelopment area that's governed by the local housing redevelopment law, is it not?
I'm not sure.
A redevelopment area is governed by the local housing redevelopment law,
Which is the ordinance.
which is what ordinance?
We're talking about the Gloucester Township redevelopment zone. Whatever criteria is in that redevelopment zone ordinance is what the planning board would enforce.
Right, so my question is, why was the applicant talking about obtaining variances under the municipal land use law when the local housing redevelopment law and the redevelopment plan governs the redevelopment area?
Well, there's different opinions. You hear when that applicant was before at the work agenda meeting? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay, so you probably heard me say there's some issues of interpretation. My position, and I would imagine the engineering position, planner, is basically the same, that the cannabis legislation is not a land use legislation. Cannabis legislation that this governing body approved basically said, we permit cannabis. And this specific one was the class 5, and it said, it's a conditional permitted use provided you meet the criteria. So when an applicant comes in that doesn't meet the criteria, attorneys disagree. My opinion is that that's prohibited. So the board doesn't have jurisdiction to grant it, because it's not permitted unless they follow the criteria. If you can't follow the criteria, they have to look for another location. That comes in when they get to that point of the planning board's review of what the exact criteria is.
Okay, but outside,
You heard that attorney talk about door to door. And when I spoke to her previously, I indicated the ordinance doesn't necessarily say door to door. The ordinance says your facility to the property line.
right, but outside cannabis, any other applicant that came in and wanted to change something within a redevelopment plan, that would not be governed by the municipal land use law, correct? That would be governed by the redevelopment plan and the local housing redevelopment
Well,
law.
that's why they're asking for the governing body to make an amendment to the redevelopment plan from a redevelopment entity review and a council. So I told that applicant that you can be here asking for the redevelopment entity to make an amendment to what criteria is, setbacks and whatever. But then you're gonna still have to come back to them if it doesn't meet the cannabis legislation to amend that if they want an easier path. That's what I told them. That's.
So the answer to,
Those ordinances are requested big.
so the answer to my question is yes, it's governed by the redevelopment plan and by the local,
As well as the legislation, the ordinance.
but not the municipal land use.
Yes, the redevelopment entity is a land, legislation for redevelopment zone is land use also.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Anyone else? Ms. Enby?
Hi again, Tina Hendry Summerdale. So let's dumb this down for myself here. The letter of support that one would get if I was wanting to open up a shop, let's say, right? I would come to, walk me through the process. Like if I got a lease and I got a land and I got all that great fun stuff, I come to somebody to say, hey, I have this great idea. Can I have a letter of support? And then what happens?
We'll give a letter of support if they're doing their application for the license in the state of New Jersey. That's where that comes into play.
How do you know though, if you should support or not support?
I can't answer that question.
But is there like a checklist? Like is,
Criteria. They meet our criteria that we develop.
oh, okay.
Application.
Okay, so,
Lease agreements or own the property, financial, if you're an LLC, we want to know all the members, because we have members, police investigation to make sure they meet all the specific criteria. If they meet all of that, we'll give them a letter of support, which they initially started bringing to the state of New Jersey. New Jersey now has a tax on that. They're not asking for that. That was the purpose of the letter of support. Once they got the letter of support, if they met all their other requirements and got their license from the state of New Jersey, then they would make their application for whatever area for the site plan development. But then they gotta follow the criteria that's required.
okay, so does that include knowing where point A is and where point B is? It's like you said, it has to meet the criteria, right? So there's like a checklist, right?
They'll fight that battle.
But at the same time, as I said earlier, coloring outside the lines is pretty dangerous because it's a slippery slope. Once you start coloring outside the lines and you don't I mean, what's the sense of having rules and ordinances and policies and procedures if all it takes is to have a lawyer to say, hey, can you please, it's only, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's 72 feet. It's supposed to be 200 feet, right? From point A to point B. It's not even half of that. It's 72 feet. Granted, those two residences may be completely okay with it, right? That's fine. But the rules and the policies that you all have taken the time to set forth for the whole entire township, it's out the window because they have a lawyer to say, oh, it's okay. They should have never received a letter of support because they didn't meet the criteria. Even if it was 199.99 feet, it should have been a no-go.
Let me stop you there. Let me stop. I just want to. Okay, so when we give a letter of support, does it identify the specific location?
We require them to tell us.
At that point, should we, in the future, say it's not going to meet the criteria, therefore we're not going to give it a letter of support? I think that's the.
Yeah. Because let me tell you.
Am I correct?
Yeah, because if I was the people here that paid money for that lawyer, and you're like, we're gonna table it, and we're gonna think about it, and I'm thinking I got a good fighting chance. I'd rather know that it's a no-go as opposed to be like, all right.
So is, my question is that, are we giving a letter of support for a specific location? And if so, should we at that time say no, because it doesn't?
Yes.
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 Well, let's think.
Okay, so we talked about before. You don't want to send a message to a planning board because it can be lax on the importance. So you would say no.
But at the same time, you don't want to send a message to the residents of this township stating that these rules are made to be broken. Like, that's not fair. Like, it's you can't have it both ways.
But I guess I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit, okay? So. Is an applicant able though to take a chance and say, I want this location, it's a great location, give me a letter of consent, I know it's not binding on you, because it's definitely not binding, okay? They get the license, they come back to us and we say, hey, it's gotta go before the board. And if they agree to it, fine, if they don't, can we deprive them, I guess is my question, of the opportunity?
That's not a bad approach, and I'll tell you what happens. Before it even gets to that point, Clerk and I have discussions, and we fully disclose before anything that what are the limitations and restrictions. As we started going through this process, working with the zoning officer, we said every letter of where they get their zoning letter that it's a permitted use in an area. That letter also discloses to the applicant what are the restrictions. You're too close to another, or you're too close to residential. And that's put in that letter. So everybody has disclosure, and we tell them, we're going to disclose it. You can do what you want. But we're going to tell you that's the impediments you're going to meet as you go along. That's why we made it very clear to the applicant that was here if you were sitting out there.
Yeah, I was, but the thing is, it gives two messages. It gives a message, a false hope to the applicant, right? That he can fight City Hall. But it also gives a really bad message to those who are here in the meetings, who have voted for our representatives, that rules are made to be broken if you can find a loophole. There shouldn't be, like, we should not color outside the lines. Like, that is, like, we have rules, we have regulations, we have policies, and just don't color outside the lines.
I think you can't oversimplify, okay? I think that's a, if an applicant comes, asks us for a letter of consent, they meet all the criteria, with the exception of distance.
Well, so that really letter of support.
Yes.
Letter of consent is what they're giving them support, that they can try to go forward with whatever they have to do with the state of New Jersey. That was the initial purpose of the letter.
And we're not doing that anymore.
Or are we? We're still doing, we still get several phone calls. Okay. Our better system.
I mean, I understand your point.
I mean, it's 72 feet. It's not even 199.99999. It is 72 feet. It's not even half. I'm just saying.
That's why I paused. When I heard that, I immediately paused.
You're just like, what the truck, right?
They wanted to.
You're flipping kidding me here.
They wanted to amend it from 200 to 100 and then.
And it's just like you don't let the inmates run the asylum, right? You are allowing businesses to dictate what to do. And it shouldn't be, because if you don't let me do it and you don't let anybody else do it, just because they're going to be bringing money, it doesn't count. But good night.
Unless they get the redevelopment entity, agreement that they're looking for, they'll never get to the planning.
Okie dokie pokey. Thanks.
All right, that's, time's up. That concludes our public portion. Polling of directors.
Mr. Carlin,
Nothing to report.
Mr. Cardis,
Nothing to report.
Mr. McGill,
Nothing to add, thank you.
Chief Harkins.
Just want to thank council and the whole community. National Night Out was a great success. I think it was the nicest weather we've ever had, temperature wise. We had great turnout throughout the township and was really we got great feedback, interchange with the community, the stops that I was at, and that's the feedback we had 19 different stops throughout the town. So it was really great, culminating with the fireworks here, which went well. Ms. Hendry, I want to thank you for taking the moment. That was the 30, I think he graduated the 38th session, 37 and 38, did the basic and the advanced follow-up, 2 weeks worth. So we've been doing this for that 38 classes. My children did it. Those officers do a fantastic job. I sit back and I laugh because I get to see them Monday morning when they start, and then I'm here for the graduation. And I could just tell by the way they have a little bit of discipline to doing things, and they have a good time through it. That is a success of our school resource officer program. Those are the officers that it would be very easy for us to say, hey, we need more help on patrol and throw them out on the street to help patrols through the thing, but we don't. And through the support of the administration, council, everything, we dedicate them to run these types of programs, which have outstanding benefits, long-term benefits to those that attend. And they're experts at it. They're with school, they're specially trained, but they put their heart and soul in it. I can't outdo what Ms. Hendry says. I'm very proud of the Junior Police Academy and how it's become such a premier event and how the results that we get. I'll leave her words to it because she said better than I. But thank you for recognizing them. They will very much appreciate that, and we look forward to them coming back again next year. Thank you. Have a good night.
Mr. Richardson.
National Night Out was a blast. Keith, who's the champ? Keith and I had a horseshoe contest. Now, but all kidding aside, it was a good time. We all came together. People that sometimes sit on both sides of the aisle here and go at it. We had a good time that night. Dina, the words you said, fantastic, beautiful. So good for you. And Denise, enjoyed the parsing of the language of the statute or the ordinance. Have a good night, everybody.
Mrs. Albright Troxel.
National Night Out was really an excellent night for me. I haven't done it in many years, and it felt so good to do it again and see all the residents, and everybody was happy. Both sides of the aisle, all the residents. I didn't see any arguments or anything. Everybody was cohesive together, and that's the way Gloucester Township used to be. And I hope we get it back like that again. And the letter that was read by the young lady about the Junior Police Academy, and it was about the cadet and from the cadet. I thought that was outstanding. I love those kinds of programs because they're our future. And if they take those programs and write letters like that, God bless them. And I just thought that was absolutely wonderful. And I love this program. I wish I didn't give all my fishing rods away. Of course, I never catch anything, but I used to like to fish. And I remember this at Lake Dranisi's. And it was packed and the kids loved it. And I hope that this happens again. And I'm very happy that you are willing to take this on. It's just wonderful to see residents that want to help and participate and help the young people in this township. Thank you.
Mrs. Walters.
I just wanted to piggyback on everybody. National Night Out
obviously the first time I went out with everybody, and it was a great experience, got to meet new people, got to see all different age groups, they all came together, and they really rallied for the township and the police, and the respect that they gave. Also, Ms. Hendry, very nice letter written. I like to see when the kids are up at the park, I can see them when I'm going shopping or driving. So it is nice to see them out in the, community, and you can see it, so, and good job for your son.
Mrs. Winters? I'm duplicating too much, but, yeah, Ms. Hendry, a great letter. I wish I had that skill to write like that, because I don't, I'm very blunt with my writing, and it's horrible. But that was very nice, to send that through. It's a great program, and, it's nice that we were able to accommodate that within our town. National Night Out, I agree, it was probably the best weather we've had. It's probably the first one that I wasn't dripping, in the last couple of years. So that was kind of nice to be able to relax and enjoy it without being uncomfortable. And just, I think the back and forth tonight and the give and take of the information was amazing. Have a great week.
Mr. Mignot?
I want to piggyback what everyone else has just said, and there's a reason why Gloucester Township is recognized as one of the top law enforcement of National Night Out. Chief, great job, you and your team, from the very start to the end, to the fireworks. Awesome time. Thank you all for coming out, for the comments tonight, the dialogue. I think it was fantastic. It's great. And the reason why I'm up here and not Council President Mercado, and I do have his blessing and consent to say this, is that he unfortunately had to have some emergency surgery done yesterday evening. So keep Mr. Mercado in your prayers. With that, make a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, great week.